My love story with Louise Grimaldi didn't end in the marriage I had hoped for. It wasn't my decision to part ways with her. The issue was her stunning beauty. Men were constantly pursuing her, which led her to suggest an open relationship. She wanted to date other people while still being with me. I couldn't accept the idea of sharing her with someone else. I suggested we break up so she could explore what life had to offer. After a few months, she wanted to reconcile, but pride got in the way. I cared deeply for her, but I couldn't move past my male ego. We remained friends, but she eventually met someone else who wanted to marry her. She tried to use that to sway me, but by then I had met Debbie. I told Louise about Debbie and wished her and her new suitor well. We stayed friends, but she ended up marrying the other man. And I married Debbie, a girl from Bensonhurst named Debra Scibetta. This all happened in 1970, around the time I became involved with the new Fort Hamilton Club. One evening, I found myself hanging out on the corner of Bay 23rd and Bath, near my apartment, with Lenny, a guy named Louie, and Diane Scibetta, who happened to drive up. Diane and I had known each other for a while, and she was actually one of the girls we had seen the night Joe Kalusha got hit. She was with 3 other girls that night and suggested we all go to Coney Island, to Nathan's, for some hot dogs. So we all piled into the car, 7 of us squeezed in together, chatting and giggling. As we were on our way, I suddenly looked at Diane and realized I didn't even know her that well. I pointed at a cute brunette girl and asked Diane who she was. Diane introduced her as her sister, Deb, and we began chatting. Deb mentioned she had just gone through a breakup and was free. When we reached Nathan's, we devoured hot dogs, and then Diane suggested we go on some rides. One particular ride called the Hammers was too much for me. The spinning and swinging made me feel queasy. I yelled at the operator to stop the ride or else, but he made it go faster instead. Eventually, when the ride ended, I was so sick I couldn't even look at him. I asked Diane to take me back home immediately. A few nights later, Diane asked if she could bring her sister to my club. I agreed, but truthfully, I couldn't remember much about Deb except for trying not to throw up on the ride. Diane mentioned that Deb had heard about me and thought highly of me, but my memories of her were blurred by that nauseating experience at Coney Island. As I observed the women at the club on a Saturday night, ensuring they were taken care of and not bothered, one in particular caught my eye. Debbie stood out amongst the regulars, appearing fresh and innocent in a place where a certain type of woman typically frequented. Intrigued, I decided to approach her and offer her a drink before suggesting we take a walk outside to escape the chaos of the club. As we strolled and conversed, Debbie shared stories about her family, painting a picture of her strict but loving parent. By the time we returned to the club, we were holding hands, and she invited me to her parents' house the following day for dinner. I gladly accepted, bringing along a few friends who quickly became engrossed in a sports game on TV as I watched Debbie work her magic in the kitchen, transforming into a nurturing house mother. Unlike the other women I encountered at the club, she exuded a certain grace and authenticity that captivated me. I realized then and there that she was the one for me, a connection akin to wolves who mate for life. However, the hurdle we faced was her father's disapproval of me, labeling me as nothing more than a hoodlum. Not only was I 8 years older than her, but I also considered myself a bad guy. However, little did I know that there was another influence on Debra Scibetta's father that I was unaware of at the time. It turned out that her uncle was involved in organized crime, running an illegal gambling operation in New Jersey. Despite this, I wanted to take Debbie out on a date and met with her mother to ask for permission. Although her mother initially hesitated, she eventually agreed, but made sure to keep it a secret from her father. This secrecy bothered me, and I questioned why we had to hide our innocent date. Despite my initial frustrations, I eventually met her father, who turned out to be a kind and caring man. His main concern was for his daughter's well-being, which I respected. In the face of resistance, our love persevered. I readily respected his desires, promising to honor his words and actions at any moment. As the year drew near its end, we set our hearts on marriage, igniting protests from both her parents. They saw her as too young, a mere 17-year-old. At first, their opposition was adamant. Later, they attempted to postpone the union. Finally, they suggested we wait until she reached 18, which would be in May. I agreed, and they urged us to book a wedding hall. Though they didn't say it explicitly, they expected us to struggle to secure a venue with less than a year's notice. They believed time would work in their favor, driving us apart. However, their strategy failed. On April 16, 1971, we exchanged vows at St. Bernadette Church, just weeks before her 18th birthday. I turned to Butch, the owner of a prominent neighborhood catering hall called the Colonial Mansion. We had formed a friendly bond after I assisted him during a series of burglaries. As expected, Butch's venue was fully booked a year in advance. Despite this, he extended an extraordinary gesture by offering us a Friday slot. There were no deposits, no down payments, no complications. The deal was sealed in an instant. Debbie radiated joy as we shared the news with her parents. "We're getting married on April 16th, she announced. "April," her mother exclaimed. "Did you get a cancellation?" Her eyes then met the calendar. "What are you talking about?" she said. "April 16th is a Friday. A Friday wedding? What's that? Who ever heard of a Friday wedding?" Undeterred, we followed our hearts. On a Friday, we vowed to love and cherish each other forever. It was a day filled with joy, laughter, and unwavering love. We defied the conventional norms, choosing a path less traveled. Our union stood as a testament to the strength of our love, proving that with determination and unwavering commitment, obstacles can be overcome, and true love can conquer all. 300 people packed the gathering, a blend of neighborhood folks, my loyal companions, and seasoned wise guys. Respected figures like Old Man Rizzo and Shorty graced the event with their presence, while heavyweights like Carmine Persico opted to send envelopes instead. The venue was awash with envelopes. Debbie and I embarked on our honeymoon to the peaceful haven of the Poconos. As I stood at the threshold of 26,